Hey guys, this is Courtney from Cosmic Clary Astrology, and today we're going to be talking about the Capricorn full moon happening on July 21st at 29 degrees. So let's first talk about the fact that this full moon is at 29 degrees. 29 degrees is called an anaretic or critical degree in astrology. So typically what we see is some type of crisis, a buildup of energy, really, really potent energy around that sign that is kind of testing the sign that it's in. And what I mean by that is that there's usually some kind of pressure or situation that arises that's kind of typical of that sign's nature in order for them to be tested on it and kind of move past it. So if you have a natal planet at 29 degrees, that will be relevant for you too. So the sign of Capricorn has a lot to deal with things that we are building, things that we care about that can impact the world or the public, things that can last the test of time, that build up our reputation and what we're known for, and also our own sense of self-respect. So with this moon being at 29 degrees, we may have certain situations that come in here and have us kind of check our ego at the door in a way. It could bring up themes around these Capricorn topics that can have us kind of test whether or not this thing is really working for us. And there's a lot more nuance here, especially with Pluto there, but I'll get into that in a second. So for example, Capricorn can sometimes be quite self-critical. It could be judgmental of itself or others. It can focus a lot on external productivity. It can focus a lot, again, on respect and kind of what you can accomplish out in the world. It can focus on material success and compare one person to another person on a more superficial level. It can create this sense of superiority or inferiority or hierarchy, essentially, within one's perspective. It can also make you feel behind or ahead of people as a result of that. And it can put a lot of pressure on you to, again, work and achieve. And so there can be situations that come up around these themes or these topics that act as kind of like a crisis that stimulates us to go out and make some necessary changes. And I say that because this moon is making a tight trine to this Mars and Uranus conjunction. Mars, you can see in the chart, is at 0 degrees of Gemini. And Mars and Uranus together is really about shaking things up, realizing when you are reaching a dead end with something in terms of your mindset, your approach, your way of doing things, essentially. And so there's going to be something that I feel like we are meant to adjust or adapt within in our lives. And that can be on a very psychological level because Pluto is on this moon and the sun is in Cancer. Cancer is a water sign and is very concerned with our internal world, our emotional nature, what's going on with us behind the scenes. Pluto being on the moon, again, is very psychological and can draw up a lot of the things that have been hidden within our own psyche because Pluto rules the things that are hidden, that are underground. Full moons already can illuminate things within us and can draw clarity or a sense of awareness to certain aspects of the psyche or our life that we maybe have not noticed because life is so busy. And so when Pluto comes here, it not only has that meaning on a full moon, but it exaggerates it and it gives us a lot more self-awareness and it helps us to really kind of psychoanalyze ourselves and understand, I feel this way because of X, Y, and Z. It can also really heighten one's emotions. And sometimes it can even make us a little bit paranoid or kind of, experiencing some of the more negative emotions or darker emotions. So that's something to be aware of. We don't want to read into things too much, especially because this moon is making a sextile to Neptune. And usually sextiles are positive, but sometimes they can feed energy back and forth because there is nothing inhibiting the flow of communication between two planets. And Neptune can feed sometimes into delusion. So we want to make sure that that's not something that we're going into, that we're not overly paranoid or creating, kind of reading more into a situation. I do think this is a very psychic time with this Neptune and Pluto and the full moon all being involved with one another. Again, I really feel like this is quite psychic. Even with the sun in Cancer, I think all of us are a little bit more aware of our kind of like the subtle hints of things underneath the surface that are communicating to us about certain messages or things that we need or choices that we have to make and things like that, that are coming from maybe our soul or our higher self or God, trying to tell us, kind of push us in a direction through our intuition and inner knowing. So I think that that's going to be quite strong around this full moon already, but sometimes that energy can become distorted and exaggerated and become a little bit more paranoid. So that's what we want to be very aware of. So what I feel like the whole purpose of this is really this kind of transformative power of Pluto, the ability to completely raise something, so eliminate something and reimagine it. What would be a better use of that energy? So for example, if you had a battery and you were going to break the compounds of that battery down and then somehow be able to use the energy into something else that fits your life more, that is how I see this full moon. But I think many of these things are going to be, even though it's in the sign of Capricorn, which is very material based and definitely has, it's definitely has an extension that we can see within material reality. I think a lot of these things are deeper within our soul, within our heart, within our emotions, within our psyche, because of the sun in Cancer, because of this Pluto on the moon. And so I think, again, these emotional realizations that we will have at this time can help us build a stronger sense of future. And I think for many people, it will be also a lot going on within relationships, where a lot is revealed emotionally and within the relationship or the connection. And that is going to help kind of establish the relationship in a new way. And that will have a material or physical consequence, but it's coming from an emotional perspective. And if it's not a relationship with someone else, I do think it is a relationship with oneself. So there's definitely something here going on where we are kind of, again, like rewiring something in a way, going about it in a different way from an emotional perspective. And I think that, again, there can be these tests of, how, especially with Mercury and Venus being in Leo, I think that there can be some energy with this where we can be quite focused on, well, like, how do people perceive me? How are people going to take this? What's my reputation, again, which is also a Capricorn theme. What's my reputation, basically? Like, are people going to acknowledge me, or how is my ego going to be affected by the things that I'm realizing or the things that I'm being vulnerable with? And so I think that there can be a challenge, again, because this is a moon at 29 degrees, there can be a challenge there where there can be fears or distortions of reality that if I say this thing, or if I do this thing, or if I'm vulnerable in this way, or if I make this change in my life, that people are going to look at me differently, or I'm going to be considered like this, or it's going to affect my public persona in some way. And so I think that that's one of the biggest things to kind of be aware of, is if there's an unnecessary focus and attention on how the external comes across. I think that's super important, because this is a very deep full moon with this Pluto here on the moon, and it wants us to really understand the true motivations behind why we're doing something. And if it's to appear a certain way, or why we're not doing something, it depends on what it is. If you're needing to make a change to live in alignment, it could be to start or stop something. And I think it's helpful to look at the egoic perspective, the social perspective of making life changes, and how other people's opinions or your comparison with others, or a competition that you might have with another person, could play a role. So that's also a really big thing, because Mars is making an exact trine to this moon, within a few degrees. A few seconds. So there is some energy here around the potential for competition, where comparison comes and it creates this kind of it stokes this fire of, I want to be better than you. I want to come out on top in some way. So that could be relevant. I think that this full moon is going to talk a lot about interpersonal relationships and how we get ahead and how we compare ourselves with others. But I think that can also be, you know, in intimate relationships as well, where it's not necessarily about getting ahead, but there is this whole question of like, how safe do I feel? Kind of talking about these really deeper aspects of the self. And yeah, so I think that there's going to be quite a bit of that going on at this full moon. I hope this is making sense, because I kind of get the feeling that this full moon is going to manifest really, really differently for everyone. And so the messages don't feel as coherent, because I think that there's going to be such a wide variety. There's a lot of aspects going on with this full moon anyway. And so ultimately, I feel like, again, we could be presented with some kind of crisis related to this Capricorn energy, related to how we maybe build up walls that prevent intimacy, or maybe we have to feel like we have to have our shit together so we appear a certain way, or maybe we feel like we're going to judge ourselves or judge other people or compare ourselves, or maybe we feel like we're not ahead enough at certain aspects of life, and we're trying to understand on a deeper level all these aspects of ourself, the kind of shadowy aspects of the Capricorn energy. Because Pluto is here, it will help us look at those shadowy aspects and be real about them, be honest about them. And that's what I think this trine to Mars and Uranus together is having us do, is having us be very, very honest, and also be honest about what isn't working in terms of that aspect of ourself. And again, this has to deal with that dead end. When Mars and Uranus come together, there's something that needs to liven up, that needs to shake up. Pluto and the moon represent something dying off, especially in the sign of Capricorn, where the moon is. And so something's dying off, and it's kind of shaking up in its process with this Mars and Uranus energy. This moon is also making an exact sextile to Neptune. So this energy is helping us with the element of kind of that softening that is really necessary, I think, in this whole process. For something to die off, it's not that it just dies off, it's broken open and it's revealed, and it has to be felt and processed and examined and understood and mirrored and accepted. And I think that there's quite a lot there that is very vulnerable, and yeah, it takes a lot of kind of openness and compassion for this to go well. And I think that comes in terms of our relationship with ourselves and with others. So someone could present something to you about their inner workings, about their life that they suddenly become very aware of, and then they realize they need to maybe make some kind of adjustment to how they're going about things because of this Mars and Uranus energy. But in the process, it's like they're giving you their heart on a platter in a way to look at it and say, you know, I'm not going to judge you, but I'm going to help you process some of this. So if this is about a relationship, it's going to be really important to like hold space for one another without the judgment that can sometimes happen when we have strong Capricorn or Saturn energy coming through. This moon is also squaring Chiron. It is coming out of a square. It's kind of getting far. So I don't know how relevant this is, but I think whatever it is cracking open, I do think there's a tenderness here. And sometimes Capricorn can resist that tenderness. And again, it can kind of put up a facade or put up walls or try to appear like it has all its shit together, be overly self-reliant. And I really feel like this full moon is trying to help realize, with this moon being at 29 degrees, with Pluto being there, it's trying to help us realize that those methods don't work anymore, or they're not working for whatever reason. And it's important to have kind of the real raw honesty come forth and again, be broken open in some kind of really positive way. And I think because the ruler of this moon, Saturn, is retrograde in Pisces, it's really helping us do that. It's helping us release quite a bit, like release some of the holding on, some of the tension, some of the, I don't know, like I have it all figured out and this is all under control and I got this. Like some of that energy, I think, has to kind of be let go of, because Saturn's trying to reevaluate how it goes about things. And being in Pisces, it's reevaluating through a spiritual and soft and compassionate perspective. So I think approaching ourselves with that is going to be very helpful, as well as, of course, others. At this time, Mercury is also in Leo, squaring this Mars and Uranus conjunction. So people might say some really unexpected things. People might behave in kind of unexpected ways. And I think this is really important right now to be very kind of agile, even though this is a Capricorn full moon. Capricorn is an earth sign, which is not the most agile. It's kind of the densest energy. I think it's still trying to have us be agile amongst these things that are harder to move or to change or to alter in our life. The sense of, the things that create security for us, like are, what we've always had up as maybe walls or expectations or, like a perspective on something, whatever it is that's created a sense of security for ourselves and like a solid foundation. A little bit of that has to be broken open right now to be reconfigured. And so that can feel sometimes scary. And I think it's going to be important to be light on our feet in order to be able to reconfigure what we want that sense of security to look like. And so learning, growing, adapting is super important. The idea of like freedom, movement, travel as well is super important. This kind of energy with, Mercury squaring Mars and Uranus, it has this kind of, it has the opposite type of energy as Capricorn, because this moon in Capricorn has a lot more to do with like responsibilities, expectations, social conventions, really respecting the logistics and like the step-by-step way of going about something. And so like that's the nature of Capricorn, that again, I feel like we're going to have some kind of crisis around like the way that we thought we were going to do something isn't how it's coming out, or something's happening within a relationship, or we're comparing ourselves with somebody else. Again, I feel like there's going to be so many different ways that this manifests, which is why I'm just kind of giving lots of examples and don't have a solid, this is what it is. So that area is being tested, like this kind of earth energy around, well, things have always been done this way, and I've always talked to people this way, and I've never shared this about myself, or responsibilities are like this, and like you have to get married before you have a kid and you have to do it by this age, and I'm comparing myself to that. And it's like this kind of solidness in what we hold on to for our sense of security, what we think we know, what we establish as like kind of a gate around ourselves to like protect ourselves and hold on to it. I feel like that is being challenged at this full moon. And so this Mercury squaring Uranus and Mars can generate a lot of energy. And it again has this kind of focus more on, well, what would make me feel free? What would make me feel like I'm growing and expanding and evolving and adapting and learning from my situations? And none of that is like rigid, right? Which is sometimes Capricorn. Capricorn can be quite rigid. So we have very opposing energies. And so I think we're being asked to step into this strong kind of Mercurial Gemini energy to be adaptable in order to navigate some of the more stuck kind of rigid aspects of our psyche, whether it's related to intimacy and relationships, work and expectations, our relationship with ourself, our comparison to things in society. Again, any kind of Capricorn type theme, it's like we're needing to be willing to let go of some of that rigidness and tightness in that area of our life in order to reimagine and create a new vision, Mars and Uranus, around what can be possible for us, what could feel more free or authentic or exciting to us that isn't what we've kind of established as a preconceived notion or a limit or an expectation. So I hope that this is making sense. What I really love about this full moon is that Venus in Leo is making this beautiful sextile, again, pretty much exact to Jupiter. And Venus and Jupiter are the two benefics, and they're very much compatible. They're trying to help us by combining very positive energies and showing us that there is a way better way to do things, to feel things. This is very good for relationships. So if there is, again, like intimacy shared, I do think that while there can be some volatility with Mercury squaring Mars and Uranus in terms of communication, it might take a lot of bravery. It might create anxiety. Sometimes there can be like unexpected results as to how we're saying things, or as a result of saying things. But I think ultimately that is going to come out positive because this Venus sextile Jupiter is inherently positive and does tend to bring people together. And Leo is all about the things that we respect and admire. And this is quite compatible in certain ways with the Capricorn energy. There is a sense of leadership and respect that is at the cornerstone of both Leo and Capricorn. And so I feel like that's what we ultimately want, especially from an egoic perspective, is we want to be accepted. We want to be understood. We want to be admired. We want to be respected. We want to be loved. And I feel like there are ways that we're trying to go about getting that aren't, or we have patterns within that are not like actually getting us what we're looking for. And it's actually creating more distance. And yeah, and I think that that's what we're breaking open and getting rid of so that we can come together with this Venus sextile Jupiter in a much more cohesive, understanding and elevated way, like elevated consciousness within the dynamic of the relationship, doing it differently, doing it in a better way. And I really love that. I really think that that's a super powerful, super powerful thing. And I think also we're in many ways, we can reestablish like what it means to be valued within the workplace, within a relationship, with, valuing yourself. I think that's going to be a really big theme as well. How can I find the intrinsic value and love maybe myself or this person or this career path, instead of trying to place it on external things? And I truly do think that this Venus sextile Jupiter can help us accomplish an understanding of what that true intrinsic value is. So, a lot to say there. I hope that makes sense. I know that was complex, but if you resonate with this at all, I would really love to hear in your comments down below. I am also going to do this reading for all of the rising signs, so make sure you check that out for the rising and sun sign. I also like to watch for my moon sign when I'm feeling particularly sensitive, or just noticing how I'm feeling a little bit more. So check that out too if that feels relevant for you. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up first we have Aries rising and sun. So this Capricorn full moon happening on July 21st is taking place in your 10th house of career. And it's almost exactly conjunct Pluto, which is at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So interesting to have the moon and Pluto come together. Usually the Pluto has to deal with things that are not necessarily always available on the surface of our consciousness. Both the moon and Pluto can have very subconscious elements to them. So I pulled a card on kind of what are things that we maybe haven't always seen or that have been hidden that can be illuminated as a result of having these two subconscious planets receive the light of the sun and become illuminated for the first time in a while. So the moon and Pluto together in the 10th house, and the moon being in Capricorn, has a lot to deal with our material success in reality, our goals, our reputation, our success in the world in general. And when I asked what you might not see about this is this card that says limits. This is Sigil 31. So there's something about limits within your roll out in the world that you might not be fully seeing or respecting at times, that you could be realizing as a result of this full moon. This doesn't just have to be about career stuff, although I think it very well is likely about it, with the 10 of Pentacles also coming out, which is a card of great financial success. But there could be just something here with the relationship with limits that you are realizing. So it could be that you are not always realizing what your own limits are. So like what you can and can't accomplish within a certain period of time, or given the energy that you have or finances that you have, the willpower that you have, for example. Limits could also represent where you don't recognize where you're putting limits on yourself, where you are maybe being overly cautious with something, which is not an Aries trait necessarily. So I don't know if this is it, but this moon is squaring Chiron in your first. So this could be coming from a place of insecurity where maybe you delay things or feel uncertain about things when you are pursuing them. And, or you could have fear or wounding around it. And to some degree, that could interfere with your ability to achieve something or to feel good while in the process of that. So there could be certain limiting beliefs, for example, that could be coming up because of things from the past or because of your self-concept. Limits could also mean that there's just a need to kind of see what is really possible with something, and to recognize that there is a pace to life and to reality, especially with this being a Capricorn full moon, which is an earth sign. It's very much related to our sense of time. And Aries tends to be the least patient of the zodiac signs. So there could be an inherent quality of wanting things to be further and further and better than they already are, in a way that might not be always grounded into reality, especially because your planetary ruler Mars right now is at 0 Gemini at the time of this full moon, which is Gemini tends to kind of have eyes bigger than their face. Is that a stomach bigger than their eyes? Something like that. Eyes bigger than their stomach. Okay, I don't know. There's the sense of like, I want to experience everything. I don't want to have to choose. I want to have time for it all. I don't want to single things out or say no to something. And so you might be kind of having this feeling of excitement and stimulation and being very interested in multiple things, especially because Mars is also conjunct Uranus. There's this kind of changeable or more volatile energy of wanting to do something different, of wanting to try new stuff, go to new places, learn new things, experiment. And I definitely think you should be following those instincts. However, I also think that there are going to be, again, certain limits in reality to those things. And so there's only so much that you can put into something, right? Like you have to recognize that if you put your energy into a million different things, you won't get the results back for all of those things. And so there could be something here where you have this very excitable type energy going on, where maybe something is shifting within you. But also at the same time, there needs to be kind of this awareness around what really, really matters to me within my goals and my long-term sense of direction. What really matters to me? What has the potential to really produce quite a lot of fruit in my life with this 10 of Pentacles, to produce security for myself, and to really get focused on what those things are. I also have the Page of Cups, 6 of Pentacles. To me, this is somebody who is kind of understanding that, again, they have a lot of interests. This Page of Cups can be quite idealistic, like this dreamer quality to them. And you very well might have this dreamer quality to you. But the 6 of Pentacles kind of knows that what I put into something, I get out. And so there's this kind of grounding the dream into reality and recognizing that there's only so much that you can put your energy into, to a large degree. So yeah, there's honestly a lot of other stuff I can say, but I'm trying to keep this reading a little bit shorter than my other ones. So I'm going to wrap it up here, but I want you guys to be aware that the dreamer quality within you is a really beautiful quality, but I think it's also equally important to get very clear on what is truly significant for you, what you really want to have in your life long term, and what your limits are. And that could be recognizing and respecting the limits of reality, as well as recognizing when you could be shooting too low and putting limits on yourself unnecessarily. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Aries. I hope that this is helpful for you. If so, please do comment down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus rising and sun. So for you guys, this Capricorn full moon happening on July 21st is taking place at 29 degrees of Capricorn in your 9th house, and it's conjunct the planet Pluto. So what does this full moon bring up for you? Well, first of all, Moon and Pluto together do indicate that something is being revealed that has been largely subconscious, or that we're having greater revelations about the true meaning of something within ourselves, understanding more of our emotional perspective on something that we could have been kind of pushing down, compartmentalizing, not fully seeing like the total, under like inner workings of something. We're gaining awareness to what that is. For you guys, this has a lot to do with faith and beliefs being in this 9th house, as well as your sense of growth. There's something with this card that I pulled here, Sigil 25. There's something in your life that you are having resistance around. Resistance can mean a lot of things. Resistance can come from someone else, somebody who disagrees with your perspective on something. Resistance can come internally, where you have one part of you that wants something, another part of you that has beliefs about it that prevent you from taking action towards it, like a fear that you're not good enough, or a belief that somehow prevents you from moving forward. Resistance can come from external circumstances. But there's a sense of friction here that if I try to grow, I'm going to hit up against this wall. So, and many of you, it can be, again, really centered around beliefs. And I do see this full moon as being quite relationship oriented. So for many of you, this could involve other people as well, like a different perspective on how to grow in your life and what you should value, or what you should be prioritizing, or how things should be done, or what your morals are versus someone else's, or your philosophy for life versus someone else's. I can really see those things clashing. It doesn't have to be with another person, though. Again, it can be different aspects of the psyche, different aspects of the self. I really feel like this can cause quite a bit of discomfort. I feel like you guys, with the 5 of Cups being your first card, I feel like you guys are going through this kind of period of being unhappy. Honestly, this card has a lot to deal with feeling a little bit like disappointed about stuff in life, or about something going on in life. And with the Knight of Cups in reverse, I do feel like many of you, it could have to deal with a relationship where something in your life relationally is just not feeling its best. But these 2 cards together can also indicate something that you maybe kind of idealized, or really like dreamt about and were super excited about, and maybe put a lot of stoked the fire of this desire, and then found that it maybe didn't turn out the way that you wanted it to. And so what I feel like is happening now is a sense of kind of realization of where you, again, maybe really meeting resistance, and that you maybe need to change your approach. With the King of Swords, this has a lot to deal with like honesty, truthfulness, clarity, direct communication, and resolving the issue. Whatever this is around resistance, it's like you really have to sit and fully resolve it. You can't just move forward regardless, and you can't just have this resistance and push through it. It's something that you have to sit and work through. So this could be you journaling, or having a communication with the person it involves, making an important decision, setting a clear boundary. There's something here that needs to be very, very like clear within words and within mind and intention in order for this to be cleared up in a way that will allow you to finally move forward. Mars and Uranus is conjunct pretty much in your first house. I mean, Uranus is there in your first. So this is a time of getting unstuck. This is a time of movement and trying to really have a sense of like freedom and forward progress. And I really feel that if you don't tackle that from a mental, logical, communicative perspective, then you're really going to like trip. It's kind of like if you're running with your shoelaces untied, you could trip and fall. There's a sense of something needs to be prepared or finalized in the logical plane and the mental level in order for you to pick up speed and not be inhibited along the way because of untied aspects of life. And so that's going to be super important for you guys in order to do. And this could have to deal with finances, with values, with, you know, what you feel you are worth. There could be some things in regards to that, or it could have to just deal with really any aspect of life because Uranus is in your first house. Okay. So I really feel like this is a time for you guys to be, okay, sorry, I'm just like, there's so much I want to talk about, but I don't have time to cover everything. So I'm trying to make these readings a little short. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I do feel called to pull one more card for you guys. So I'm going to do that. There is Mercury and Leo in your fourth squaring this Mars and Uranus conjunction. So there could be a little bit of this kind of tension between your home life and like your desire to kind of get outside of your comfort zone and do something new. So maybe mastery, creative spark in reverse, new beginning in reverse. Okay, yeah, I feel like this time for you, there can also be a little bit of this push and pull between this desire to just like be in a new reality, have this new thing, do this new thing quickly, and this other version of reality where it's like, well, I have to like put a lot of time and energy into this. I have to really master something and become very acquainted with it. So there's a sense of not letting your creative energy and your spark for that get a little bit ahead of yourself, and make sure that you do put in the necessary work, the logistics behind the scenes in order to make this new reality happen. Again, I just got that strong image of like somebody not tying their shoelaces and then starting to run and tripping and falling. It's like you need to make sure all of the T's are dotted. No, I's are dotted, T's are crossed in order for this to come to reality and not prevent or not have problems when you start to pick up speed. That's the main message that I'm getting for you, Taurus. And this could involve resistance from outside of you or inside of you that has to be really dealt with head on first. It could be a logistical thing or an emotional thing. Regardless, that needs to be addressed in order for you to move forward and gain the momentum that you're looking for. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Taurus. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye. All right, up next we have my fellow Geminis. This Capricorn full moon happening on July 21st is taking place in your 8th house at 29 degrees of Capricorn. This moon is also conjunct Pluto, so we're having some intense feelings and things come up for you, my Geminis. I think it's very likely that you are going to be needing to face some kind of fears that you might be kind of hiding from. And I really see that with this first card, which is Sigil 19, talking about a fear of commitment or not being committed to something. So I want you guys to look deep within and ask yourself if there is something that you are saying that you want, but making excuses for why you are not being 100% committed to actually achieving that thing and doing what needs to be done in order to get or have that thing. So let's say, for example, you say you want a relationship, but then you are not actually putting yourself out there. And then you make excuses saying, well, dating is hard because of X, Y, and Z. And you're not actually taking the action. Instead, you're finding justifications or reasons for why it's not going to work for you. And it allows you to stay in this place of not being fully committed to the goal, but pretending like you are, so that you don't have to face those fears that are really inside this 8th house. So I feel like this full moon is going to be a time of illumination around the excuses that you've been making and time to get really real with yourself around how you maybe have been hurt in the past, how you maybe have felt insecure, not enough, where you've had fear because of something that has affected you negatively in the past, where there's been crises or trauma, and how that has played into your current state of not 110% committing to something that you actually say that you want in your life. And for maybe some of you, this could have to deal with not actually wanting that thing, but thinking that you want that thing. I don't think that's going to be the case for everybody, but I think some of you will realize that. So this whole moon has a lot to deal with our relationship with desire, especially you, Gemini, because Mars is in your first house and Mars is the planet of desire. This moon is making a trine to this Mars, and it's activating this desire nature, and it's with Uranus here, and it's having you become very honest and frank about what is getting in the way action-wise, Mars, of this desire. So what is getting in the way? Why aren't you taking the steps? And what can you do to free yourself up so you can begin to have some forward momentum? One of the biggest things, and this is kind of coming out with Jupiter being in your first house as well, or Jupiter being in your sign, is the sense of kind of the free spirit. Jupiter, you know, it rules over Sagittarius and Pisces, and it has this free spirited nature. It doesn't. Gemini and in Sagittarius, to some degree, they don't always like commitment to things to some degree. And especially Gemini, you know, there can be a fear of having reduced options. And this Page of Wands cards to me is saying that there needs to be some kind of death to this perspective, or this like inner child, this kind of like Peter Pan syndrome a little bit, where the Gemini wants to always have like playfulness and fun and options. And, you know, it doesn't want to have to choose. It doesn't want to have to commit. It wants everything to occur, and it wants it to be easy, and it wants it to be fun, and it wants to be able to do this and this and then change. And it's like, there's something that's not reality about that, because this is a Capricorn full moon. There's a sense of things having, you know, taking a lot of time and having to build, and you have to be selective, and you have to understand that what you're doing with a purpose, because you're doing it for the long term. And so it's almost like this death of like this kind of childlike energy, this kind of Peter Pan energy, a transformation of this. Not a death, because the death is actually about a transformation of energy. And especially with Pluto being in the 8th house for you on this moon, is all about how are we going to use this energy differently? So this kind of stimulating and exciting energy that comes from the Peter Pan, how can we bring that into our more day-to-day life? How can we sprinkle that level of like excitement or kind of perspective on things and creativity around things and excitement about things into what we're doing in a long-term goal or vision with a bigger purpose? And so it's really about understanding, first of all, where this comes from with the moon card happening, why you might be struggling to fully go all in on something, why you might have a fear of pigeonholing yourself or limiting your options or fully committing to something, and really, again, examining these kind of subconscious beliefs that are contributing to this part of your nature. So really, that's what I'm seeing for you, Gemini. There's honestly a lot more to say, but just know that with Jupiter in your first house, sextiling Venus in the 3rd, now is a really great time for your blessings to occur. You can ask for the things that you want and receive them. You can market yourself. You can meet people in relationships. You can really build yourself up in a big way. But I think you have to first encounter and confront those fears that you might have holding you back from working on something truly substantial and long-term in your life. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Gemini. I hope this is helpful for you. If so, please don't forget to comment down below. Also, like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, I'm next to have Cancer rising and sun. This Capricorn full moon happening on July 21st is taking place at 29 degrees of Capricorn in your 7th house. And this moon is pretty much exactly conjunct Pluto here. So what is this about? This is a pretty intense energy coming through in the area of relationships. And there's something that I feel like is being mirrored here, because anything in the 7th is acting as a reflection of what's happening in the 1st, which is the sense of self, the house of self. So self, others, they are mirroring each other to some degree, or they help relationships, for example, help reflect back to us who we really are. So there's something about your relationships, or the people that you maybe look up to, or that you surround yourself with, or that you are married to, or friends with, or work with, that are going to be mirroring certain aspects of your own psyche back to you, and having you explore with this moon conjunct Pluto, the god of the underworld, having you explore what's underneath your emotions, what's underneath your reactions to things, and really get to deeply understand the inner workings of your own psyche by seeing it reflected through others' eyes in some kind of way, which means that people could share aspects to you about yourself at this time, or can somehow reflect that to you through situations and reactions to you. Pluto and the moon together do bring up things that are largely subconscious. So I asked the cards, what is that for you? And I pulled the second sigil, which has to deal with wanting to feel like you are a good person, wanting to hold onto this self-concept of I am maybe the lover or the caretaker or the giver or the X, Y, and Z, which is typical for Cancer. You know, Cancer is quite soft. Cancer is quite, you know, compassionate and sensitive. And so, you know, the opposite energy of this is Capricorn. Capricorn can be kind of cold and emotionally empty. And especially with Pluto there as well, it can be a little bit more savage or ruthless. And so this energy, I think, is trying to draw out and mirror how there actually are aspects of your psyche that are like that are maybe kind of like emotionally not attuned, or who aren't always super compassionate, who are maybe jealous or insecure or greedy or selfish, who are maybe self-absorbed, or who are petty about things or overly focused on money, or, you know, overly focused on like what should be done. And so there's going to be different aspects of the psyche that are considered more negative that I feel like this full moon could bring up within you in order to be able to integrate the holistic picture of the self, the lighter and the darker sides of the self, because truly you really always have to have both. We all have both. And so there could be situations that come up with people that trigger these things that you might see them in other people. But I think what I would encourage you to do is reflect on if that also relates to you. If you're triggered by it, is there some aspect of yourself that identifies with that? I think ultimately that's what this full moon is about for you, is it's about coming into a complete integration within the psyche of all aspects of the self, and how at times, you know, within relationships, you may be a part of the problem. And this doesn't just have to deal with relationships, but I think it's, you know, it's basically just saying like, what's my level of responsibility in this? Even if you are, you know, with kind of, let's say you're with a toxic partner or there's something toxic happening in the relationship. It's seeing how you may have your own agency, and there's maybe some parts of you that have attracted that through your own personal choices. I chose that partner. I had that conversation. I went about this in this way. And also seeing like where that comes from and fully owning and accepting that aspect of the self. So if there's a part of me that's attracted to this, or who has this kind of, you know, selfish streak at times, or can be quite cold, or, you know, is out of touch with certain things, you know, financially, for example, it's like recognizing that part of the self and where it comes from with the moon on Pluto here, in order to fully understand that you are that, even that part of yourself, even though it's darker, there is a reason for it. There's like a survival mechanism, a logical perspective, a core like wound or something that propels that part of you to feel or act in that way. And that can be something that we can sympathize with and give compassion to and embrace and understand. And this is the definition of shadow work. So I really feel like this full moon for you is a lot around shadow work and seeing how other people in your life bring up the shadows within yourself and how that could play out in relationship dynamics, and fully seeing and owning all aspects of the self and integrating them, have compassion for them, and maybe also doing that in, you know, in connection with others as well, if that relates to other people. So there's honestly a lot more I want to say, but I'm going to wrap it up there because I don't have a lot of time today. But I hope that this is helpful for you guys. If so, I would love to hear in your comments down below. Don't forget to also give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo rising and sun. So this full moon in Capricorn is taking place on July 21st in your 6th house at 29 degrees of Capricorn. It's also conjunct Pluto, which means that we're going to be doing kind of like a deep analysis, a deep self-analysis on certain aspects of dysfunction that can be taking place on an emotional level that can also reverberate out and affect us on every level, on the physical level, the obviously emotional level, the work level as well, like how productive we are, and just the overall energy of our psyche. So there's something going on here with you guys where I feel like that those areas of your life, they may or may not be disrupted, but ultimately I feel like what's happening is that you guys are kind of stuffing down your feelings on a day-to-day basis. With this card here, I asked, like, what is being repressed that is being illuminated during this full moon? And for you guys, I think that it has a lot to do with your emotions, because I drew the sigil 67, which is disconnection. There's something that you are disconnecting from. And this could have to deal with your current like work environment or your current health situation, especially, though it doesn't have to be solely those aspects. It could be other areas of your life playing a part. But these are kind of the most obvious, where you might be the most illuminated at this full moon, where you start to realize where you've been truly, again, kind of disconnected from how you really feel about something, your unhappiness about something, or what you really need to change in these areas of your life, in your kind of day-to-day work life or your health life, or your schedule. So again, it doesn't just have to be those areas, but those are the most prominent. So if there's something going on there, what I feel like you guys need to do is have some kind of like cracking open with this Hermit and the Tower card. This means truly going within and allowing yourself to break down, allowing yourself to feel the discomfort of something, to feel the fact that you maybe are struggling or suffering in some kind of way, or that you're deeply unsatisfied with something in your life, because it's only through that intimate awareness of the self, with the Sun in Cancer in the 12th house, where you become very intimate with yourself, emotionally. It's only through that intimacy with yourself that you will realize what is actually not working. Because if you're not feeling your feelings, then you can't actually realize that something is taking its toll on you. And that's often when we see health stuff arise, because we are constantly ignoring something, and it catches up with us on a physical level. So there's something here where you need to crack open, feel, and reveal what's inside of you. And with the Tower card after that, I feel like it's also indicating not just emotionally cracking open, but then allowing things to fall out of your life that feel like they are not in alignment for you or with you, because of the realization of how they make you feel. There's something about it that can't last, that is intolerable, that's weighing on your spirit or on your soul. And with this Tower card, it's saying it's time to release your attachment to them, be willing to transform this area of your life and approach it differently. And in many ways, again, this moon is trining Mars and Uranus in your 10th, which has a lot to deal with quite a bit of like change and movement career wise for you, or life goal wise. There's something about this where it's like you need to shake that area of your life up. You need to let go of attachment to predictability or wanting it to be a certain way, and be willing to have like not always have the answers, and be in maybe a limbo state, or try something new and experiment. It's like not being stuck in a rigid perspective of this is how my work should be, this is how my health should be, this is where my life should go. It's like, what if I experimented a little bit more? What if I let go of this job that I've had for so long that I'm miserable in, and tried something else? And that's what I feel like this Leo full moon, or sorry, this Capricorn full moon is really about for you, Leo. With this Strength card in reverse, I feel like many of you guys haven't been doing this, because I really got the sense of like, you know, as a Leo, you have this lion archetype, and I got the words of like the cowardly lion. I forget what their name is, but something the cowardly lion. And so I feel like you guys have been kind of like fearful, or like having cowardice around making some of these necessary changes, or feeling some of your feelings, and like being really aware of like that's something that you're participating in doesn't match what you really actually desire authentically in your future long term. And so I feel like you guys are kind of scared, like you have some self-doubt or low confidence, or you feel not good enough, or the cowardice or the fear that I think is really coming in and being the real reason for why you're not facing your feelings around something and doing something about them. So this is a time for you to be honest with yourself, own your feelings, and do something about them. And slowly, with those actions, you'll be able to step out of any feelings of low confidence or inadequacy by proving to yourself that you're worth it, that you desire to feel that you're worthy of getting the things that you desire, and to feel honestly good about what you're doing while you're doing it. You deserve that. So that's what I see for you, Leo. If this resonates, I'd love to hear from you down below. Please also don't forget to comment and subscribe and like this video, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye, guys. All right, it makes you have Virgo rising and sun. For you guys, this Capricorn full moon on July 21st is taking place in your 5th house, conjunct with the full moon conjunct Pluto. So moon is in Capricorn, 29 degrees, critical degree. If you haven't watched the overview, check that out. Conjunct Pluto. What does this represent? There's some kind of crisis around this Saturnian Capricornian energy. For you, this is taking place in your 5th house, which has a lot to deal with your ability to fully kind of see and admire yourself. The 5th house has an overlapping meaning with Leo. It has to deal with our our creative essence. It has to deal with our individuality and how we can express that with confidence, how we can be seen and admired by others, like performing in front of others. And so there's something about this where I feel like there is some pressure that you've put on yourself with this Capricorn full moon here. Capricorn tends to apply pressure to live up to a certain expectation that you might, like, in order for others to perceive your individuality or your uniqueness in a certain way and to like admire you or look up to in a certain way. But I think that that's also part of you that's wounded. I feel like there's something going wrong here in this process where you are not actually seeing that there is maybe some shame you are holding on to, because I pulled this card, the Sigil of 33, which talks about like what is my Virgos, what are they not seeing that is being illuminated at this full moon? And it was like our sense of shame. I'm a Virgo rising too. So something here, I think it would be worth exploring, especially with this Hermit card. It'd be really worth exploring maybe recent times where you felt shame in certain situations. What was that emotion coming from? Where is it maybe blocking some of your ability to fully like shine bright and take up more space? Where is it also blocking your ability to fully connect and relate to others really well? I say that because Saturn rules this full moon and it's in your 7th. And so there's this element of relationships being super pivotal here in this whole theme of shame. So maybe other people triggering the shame, or the shame blocking you from fully connecting to other people, or you comparing yourself to others and experiencing shame. Something around this is super pivotal, as well as this moon is making an exact trine to Mars in your 10th house, which is all about, again, our career, our shininess, our ability to be like, I stand out, I'm different. So there's something going on here in regards to your belief in yourself and that kind of public image, or your beliefs, or not your beliefs, but like your way of navigating relationships that does have some type of blockage related to shame. And so ultimately, I feel like this full moon for you guys is kind of about peeling back these layers and helping you see how there is some subconscious possible fragmentation happening within the psyche, where shame is, I mean, this book talks about how shame really represents one aspect of the psyche kind of pulling away from or rejecting or pushing away another aspect of the self. And so it creates this sense of fragmentation where, in order to maybe protect our ego, the part of us that is shamed, it's like we create some fragmentation or compartmentalization in order to kind of have some level of self-preservation, while this other part of the psyche is kind of experiencing shame. So it creates this disjointed aspect of the self where maybe we want something, but then we hold ourselves back, or we feel like we are good at something, but then at times we really doubt ourselves with that thing, or we want to promote ourselves, but then we're like, oh no, I'm too shy. There's a sense of again, this feeling of like kind of working against the self because there is a little bit of shame that is causing some friction within the internal aspect of the psyche. And the fifth house just wants to be very expressive. It doesn't want to be limited by anything dark like that, or difficult like that. And so I feel like there's something here to be worked through, basically, in order to create all aspects of the self to be on the same page, in order to move forward in a way where you can feel like you really own who you are and admire who you are, instead of having this kind of disjointed reality where maybe sometimes you admire yourself, sometimes you don't. I also pulled this Two of Wands. So there's something here that you are likely planning or wanting to accomplish, that you're wanting to kind of get started on, get your foot in the door, get things moving with. The sense of like, okay, let's start something, let's create something, let's make a plan for something. And I feel like there's something about that you are, I don't know, like with this Hermit card and then the Ace of Pentacles in reverse, it's like you need to do some inner work around why you might not actually be taking the steps to do it. The Ace of Pentacles in reverse is about having, like when it's upright, it's about having an opportunity in the physical reality and taking that opportunity and making the most out of it. When it's in reverse, it's saying that you might miss the opportunity. You might not say yes to it. You might be focusing on what is not ready about you, or about this thing where you might feel, again, some sense of shame of like, I'm not good enough because of X, Y, and Z, or I'm not ready because of this, or I can't put myself out there like that because of this. It's like the sense of like deficiency and feeling like I'm behind. I'm not ready yet. I'm not good enough yet. I can't do it because there's not enough money. There's a scarcity. There's just focusing somehow on like why this opportunity can't work. And this Hermit card is coming in here to say it's time to do the inner soul searching, to explore why there is some kind of blockage around this opportunity, where you may have been like having some kind of plan that you initially thought was really great, but then there's something that you feel maybe shame around that ultimately is getting in the way of you actually taking steps towards this. And it has you focusing on aspects of the self or aspects of the situation that are reasons for why it can't be done. So really trying to do, again, this kind of soul searching. Also, this could be, again, in relationship with others as well, because Saturn is in the seventh. So this could have to deal with your connection with others, where there could be shame where you had a plan with someone or something, and then you are kind of feeling like you're focusing on why it's not going to work. So anyway, I hope that this is making sense for you guys and that it's helpful. If so, please do comment down below. Don't forget to also like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and next we have Libra rising and sun. So for you guys, this Capricorn full moon happening on July 21st is taking place in your fourth house. So super big full moon for you guys because it's in this angular house. This moon is also at 29 degrees, which is a critical anaretic degree, bringing up some level of kind of emotional crisis that could be happening within, again, more of the internal world, like the emotions, or it could actually be related to finances or family relationships, things from the past. This moon is also conjunct Pluto almost exactly. So it's really stirring up some very deeply held emotions that we could feel quite strongly and could be very, very sensitive around. And so this is a time when, again, I feel like we're going to be a little bit more raw, especially when it comes to relationships, because this moon does square Chiron in the seventh. So there could be something going on, or that has happened, because it's already coming out of the square, that has happened in relationships that is kind of maybe being brought back up emotionally in some kind of way, to be dealt with, to be felt, and to understand the deeper meaning behind, because Pluto and the moon is largely subconscious, but when it's illuminated by the sun and a full moon, it's given a better understanding of kind of those subconscious workings. Like, why is this happening? Why do I feel this way? Where is this coming from? What have I been avoiding? What do I need to face head on from an emotional perspective? And because these are subconscious energies, I did pull a card from the Blind Spot Oracle deck asking, what is it that you haven't been seeing that's being illuminated now? And I pulled the 9 sigil, which talks about the fact that you've been coping, and coping has to deal with using some kind of strategy to maybe not feel your feelings, not address something. So this could be that you're working super hard, or that you went on vacation and you got a break from life, or that you have been smoking a lot of weed, or that you've been doing a lot of art or watching a lot of movies, and it's like taking yourself out of the reality of a situation. And this card is talking about how when we cope, this is a normal and healthy part of life, but when we cope to an excess around something, there can be a time when we are needing to make a change, but we've been coping so well that we don't feel the discomfort enough to address and make the necessary changes. So that's what this full moon is about for you guys. It's about facing something emotionally that you have been suffering or struggling with, that you've been kind of put on the back burner because of something going on in your life, because you've been busy or you've been coping or whatever. You've been somehow not addressing it, and this is your time to fully feel it and face it and make necessary changes as a result of that. With this Three of Swords in upright and then Four of Pentacles in reverse, I definitely feel like it's something that has hurt your heart. Could be from the past, doesn't have to be. Three of Swords is a heartbreak card. This is like someone having a breakup, someone feeling like they were deceived or let down, someone feeling like, you know, a friendship wasn't what they thought it was. It's like there's some degree of pain, emotional pain. And with the Four of Pentacles in reverse, it's like, what are we then doing as a result of this pain? When I think about Four of Pentacles upright, I think about someone who builds up walls, who really tries to protect themselves and keep themselves small. When it's in reverse, I feel like this is your time to break down any walls or anything that you have kind of built up around you to protect yourself from feeling these feelings. The Four of Pentacles in reverse can also talk about finances. So where we might be escaping into being overly spendy with our money, or like, you know, doing like not doing our normal things to feel secure. It's like not doing our normal things that we do to like make sure that we're safe and secure. And it's like recklessly spending, or like, you know, doing these shopping trips, or going on actual trips, or just doing something where we're throwing ourselves into something that feels like, again, some kind of recklessness, but maybe exciting, but ultimately not, it's going to catch up with us. Ultimately, it's going to catch up with us. And so, yeah, I feel like it's helpful in the sense that the Four of Pentacles is reversed, because it helps you break down the walls, the things that you can build up around yourself to be tough and to not feel. But then you could also go in the opposite direction of not feeling because of recklessness and being overly like pouring the self into reckless types of behaviors as a coping mechanism. So we need something kind of in between, where we're truly just facing how we're feeling and dealing with the actual reality in front of us. What I love about this full moon is that your planetary ruler Venus is in Leo, making this beautiful exact sextile to Jupiter in your 9th house. So I really feel like this is a time when you guys are going to be able to really work through a lot of what you're experiencing. I think you're going to find greater connection or higher meaning and understanding of kind of what's next for you once you actually sit down and work on processing some of what's going on for you. I also pulled the 10 of Wands and the 4 of Swords. So there's a very like distinct energy between these two, like very different energy. Exact opposite, truly like a polarity going on here with the 10 of Wands. I don't know if I said 10 of Swords. I meant 10 of Wands, which is all about having a heck of a lot on your plate, feeling really weighed down, really burdened, feeling like you have so much to do, so much work going on that you can't even catch up. You can't get your head above water. And then the 4 of Swords is a complete opposite energy, which is like you resting a lot, you meditating, you deciding you're going to have a break and go on a vacation, not think about anything, unplug totally. So there's this complete, polarity between these two cards, the antithesis of one to the other. And I really feel like there's some kind of message here for you guys. There's a few things coming through. You guys might be alternating between these two, going really hard at work and then going off line completely. Or there could be something where maybe some of you guys are in this mode and you need to switch to the other, and vice versa. It's like you're overworking. Maybe you need to rest so you can sit with yourself, or maybe you're resting so much that you're escaping reality that you need to kind of address some of the things that are waiting for you on the other side of that responsibility. So there's something going on here where it's like very extreme positions, right? Where it's either we're totally like going so hard into work that we don't even like have a lot left over for ourselves, or we're so relaxed that we don't have this proper connection to our reality and responsibilities. So I feel like this is maybe the Temperance card is coming in here, where it's saying there needs to be some kind of balance between these two energies. So Spirit, is there anything you want to say about what is going on? Okay, so some of these cards are flipped. Is there any card that you want to pull for? Oh, Page of Pentacles, King of Pentacles, Knight of Swords. So King of Pentacles in reverse. So yeah, I feel like there's some things that I think the Temperance card is quite good for this, in the sense that you guys need to be building something substantial, but maybe there's something about what you're building that you're still kind of having to figure out, or you need to make adjustments to, or there's some relationship stuff or something else going on in your life that's like distracting you from it. And so if this is resonating for you, it's saying that you kind of need to figure out like where you're putting the energy, because it's going to these extremes. But I think it ultimately, there needs to be something shaken up about it. And that could have to deal with the fact that this moon is making a trine to Mars and Uranus in your 9th and 8th house. So there's something here where I feel like you have to kind of get rid of the muck in order to make maybe some necessary movement and change in your life. But you have to feel your feelings first and recognize when you're going into any kind of extreme in order to get there. Okay, so that's what I'm saying for you, Libra. If it resonates, please let me know down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Scorpio rising and sun. This Capricorn full moon is happening on July 21st at 29 degrees, and it's happening in your 3rd house. 3rd house is all about our mindset. And so ultimately what this Capricorn moon, it's conjunct Pluto. There's something going on here because moon and Pluto are often highly subconscious. There's something going on here that has been happening within your mind underneath your sense of awareness. And this full moon is illuminating it and helping you see what that is. I pulled a card to see what is being illuminated in terms of how your mind is working. And I got the card that talks about meaning. So this is Sigil 7 and it's talking about meaning and interpretation. The question for this card is, what am I making this mean? This is super, super important. If you do anything with self-coaching, this is the first place I would start. When it comes to interpretation of a situation, there's something that you are extrapolating, that you are making meaning out of, that you are understanding through a perspective that is not correct, that is not reality, that is not that person's intention or that situation's actual like reality of the situation. There's something that you are kind of drawing conclusions on that is distorted, that is not real. And so this full moon is about helping you see this pattern within the self where you can be, maybe you have certain fears, maybe you have certain preconceived beliefs or notions about things. Maybe you have a self-concept that refuses to acknowledge something. Or maybe you have like, just patterns that have happened before that you expect again. Whatever it is, or something that is feeding into you having a distortion of the meaning of something and making it mean something that isn't what it is. It could be something that you take personally. It could be something that, again, you would use to maybe compare yourself to others, or that you could use to feel like you are, not good enough in some kind of way. That doesn't have to be the case, but typically there's going to be likely a negative distortion of something. And because it's a moon in Capricorn, Capricorn does tend to have like judgment surrounding it. So there could be that kind of fear of judgment wrapped up in this as well. So this moon is making a trine to Mars and Uranus in the 7th, 8th house sector. So it's definitely involving relationships. What am I making this mean in regards to someone else and how they are interacting with me in some kind of way or not? And so ultimately, I feel like your goal at this time is to become really aware of what that is. Mars is your planetary ruler. and it's at 0 degrees of Gemini. So there is, again, this quality here of becoming aware of our thoughts and deciding to have maybe different thoughts. 0 degrees Gemini is a lot. There's a lot that needs to explore in terms of the way that information is absorbed and assimilated and made meaning out of. There's a lot of room for error when a planet has 0 degrees and a sign, because it still needs to learn a lot about how to deal with the energy of that sign. So this Mars, this energy you guys are in, is quite like a newbie kind of energy. And it is directly affecting relationships because of this conjunction with Uranus in the 7th. So there could be things that people say or do that you might jump to certain conclusions or think about certain things in a certain way. And it's like you have to maybe slow down a little bit, because this Gemini energy can be really like quick to kind of jump ahead. So maybe you need to slow down a little bit and consider what you didn't consider before. Question yourself in a way that you haven't questioned yourself before. You know, Scorpio energy, and, you know, Pluto is the modern ruler of Scorpio, which is on this moon. There's something about Pluto Scorpio which tends to really hold on to things and like, yeah, like they fester. They tend to fester emotionally and not be processed at the time and just released. It's like, no, maybe I processed them, but I did not release this, because whenever something happens again, I think back to that feeling and I kind of like hold it against that person, that situation. And it's like, it doesn't ever fully get to be let go of. And so I feel like there's something about this Mars in Gemini that's trying to have you fully let go of something, in order to be able to start fresh in some kind of way, especially with Uranus here, to approach a relationship or a situation through new eyes, this kind of unjaded element of it. And I think that that might be somewhat challenging for my Scorpios. I pulled the 10 of Pentacles and the Tower, and then the Ace of Swords in reverse and the 8 of Wands. So there's something in your life that I feel like maybe you, let's see, like, okay, I think this has so many meanings. It's hard to narrow it down, but the 10 of Pentacles is one of the cards that has the most kind of roots within it. It doesn't move easily. It stays and it builds for the long haul. It's something in our life that we've really kind of, it's always been there, and we've, again, kind of just built on it further and further, brick by brick, into something very substantial. This could be a relationship, a way of being in relationship, something that we are working on career-wise, something that we've always believed, something that we've used for a sense of security. This has this kind of Capricornian energy as well, like something in our physical reality. And then we have the Tower card next to it, which represents a breaking down of this foundation, kind of hacking away at some of the roots of this thing, making yourself question the things that you've built so much upon and reflect on it in a new way, so that you understand, like, it's not just because of the way you've always done things or thought about things that you continue it. You're making a conscious decision to do it and to think about it in a way that supports you and is truly in alignment with you, instead of it just being on kind of autopilot, where it's like, well, I've always done it like this, and things have always gone like this, and I've always had this thing in my life. The Tower card is like shaking things up in a way that helps you get out of maybe any rigidness that can come from the roots of long-standing things in our life. And again, this Mars being at 0 Gemini is really about being curious and open and agile and adaptable, and not trying to get overly stuck on something or overly committed to something. It's open-minded, and it wants to see things from a different perspective, so that it can grow past some of this energy here that may be a little bit stagnating because of this history. We also have 8 of Swords in reverse, 8 of Wands. I feel like it's once you let go of some of these perspectives or mindsets that are actually unhealthy, where you're making meaning out of something that isn't there, and you're drawing negative conclusions that are causing you anxiety. I really feel like once you're able to resolve this and just decide to let that go, work through your own mindset, I really feel that with the 8 of Wands, things are going to pick up very quickly in your life and progress rapidly in whatever area this is concerning. So you're kind of like slowing yourself down in a way. And I think that, you know, is a necessary part of life because you're having to confront something, but ultimately it's just it's a speed bump that you're going to overcome. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. If this resonates, please do let me know down below, or any questions or comments. Also, don't forget to give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, subscribe, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius rising and sun. For you guys, this full moon in Capricorn happening on July 21st is taking place in your second house. This full moon is at 29 degrees of Capricorn, which does represent some kind of crisis around Capricorn energy. It does also conjunct Pluto, which can bring up quite a bit of emotions and things within our psyche that have been hidden from us, which are finally now being illuminated by the light of the sun. So for you guys within the area, with this being in the area of your finances, your possessions, your self-worth, and your values, there's something in this area of your life that you're having some kind of energy of crisis come up in order for you to confront it and overcome it. What I'm seeing for you guys is that, again, there's something being illuminated that was subconscious. For you guys, to clarify, I pulled the sigil 57, which talks about blinding optimism. There is something that you have had blind faith with that could be related to relationships, work, or money, but I think it's primarily related to money. But some of you guys, it could be related to like values and relationships and kind of what you expect there. And I say that because this moon does trine Mars in the 7th and Uranus in the 6th, which are conjunct. So it can really wrap up both areas of life. But there's something going on here where I feel like you guys have been having a lot of faith in something. You're like, this is going to work out. This is going to make me a lot of money one day. Or this relationship is suddenly going to overcome these hurdles, even though, she doesn't want to have kids and I do. And it's just going to work out. I just know it is. And so there's something here around having so much faith in something that you're not actually looking at the reality of what it takes to achieve something that you really want. And the irony of this is that with the 10 of Pentacles and Chariot, you could have what you want really fast. You could be making your way towards success, towards this 10 of Pentacles, towards something that's lasting and fulfilling and strong and sturdy in your life. That's really powerful, maybe financial success or some kind of really stable relationship where you are on equal footing with someone and you feel valued and understood. So either one of those things are available to you, or whatever it is that you're trying to work towards. And with this Chariot card, it's like you can use your own, again, willpower to get there. Like you have a strong mind, you know what you want, you know where you're going, you're making the necessary sacrifices and choices to get there. This could be available to you, but instead you guys are in this Wheel of Fortune reverse, which can talk about you guys having bad luck, a lack of control where you're not using your willpower in proper ways, where you are kind of clinging to how things are or how you think things should be, where you are delaying things. You're kind of blocking your blessings in a way. And I truly do feel that you're doing that through this inability or this lack of desire, perhaps, to see things how they really are, and to see some of the darker versions of reality or the more limiting and somewhat, less sexy, less exciting versions of reality. And so there's something here where I feel like you guys are having a lot of faith that something is just going to work out, that it's going to pop off, that you're going to make the money, that you're someday going to be rich, that you're someday going to have this amazing relationship, but you're not recognizing that from where you are to where you want to go, there's a lot of work and changes and discipline and self-control and sacrifices and things that require maybe shifts in values, shifts in priorities, shifts in where you're spending your time, who you're spending your time with, where you're trying to like make these goals happen in the wrong kind of relationship versus the right one, in the wrong career versus the right one. And it's like you guys are trying to make something work through sheer force of faith. And that's a very Sagittarius theme, is having very strong faith and optimism and hope in spirit and oneself. And that's such a beautiful quality. You don't want to squash your faith, but you do want to integrate Capricorn energy within that. Because ultimately, if you are not like aware of the reality of the steps that it takes to get there, pure faith alone can really only get you so far. It does take those material steps, those realistic steps paired with the faith to get you the full distance. And I ultimately feel like you guys have some really amazing and large looming blessings for you. But I think that you are kind of stuck in maybe a cycle of almost like you're sabotaging your own success, or you're like not feeling lucky, or you are trying to control too much something or hold on to something too much the way it is, instead of recognizing that maybe something needs to change in this area of work or relationships, or maybe that you need to not only that something needs to change, but that maybe you need to just maybe you need to take like preventative measures to prevent some negative outcomes that you might be scared of, that your blinding optimism might prevent you from fully seeing or recognizing. And so, yeah, it's basically that. So it's what we choose to believe and how that could be preventing us from seeing the full picture of something. And this could go in the opposite direction, where it could be blinding pessimism as well, which is not typically a Sagittarius theme, but there could be things where you are, not seeing, like you're overly seeing the negative, and that you're not, that could also be distorting the perception of what something really takes. So there's something here that needs to be worked on, and you can really have a lot of luck. You can have stability. You can have what you're looking for. But I think it does take some lifestyle changes, or first it takes seeing the realistic picture and then making the necessary changes. And I feel like there's something about you guys where you're being either overly optimistic or pessimistic, probably overly optimistic, where you're not recognizing that there is actually some agency and some steps that you can take in order to bridge the gap between yourself and the reality that you're looking for. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. Does that resonate? I'd love to hear in your comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, I'm going to say of Capricorn rising. So for you guys, this Capricorn full moon is happening on July 21st in your first house. This is a big deal for you guys because, of course, it's in your sign. It's also at 29 degrees of your sign, which is the anaretic or degree of crisis. So this does represent some kind of culmination of bigger energy. And with this also, with this full moon being conjunct Pluto as well, it can really resurface a lot of big emotions. It can make you feel things on a much larger scale, and it can make you have awareness around things that maybe have been kind of pushed down or not fully processed. And I was asking the cards, like, what is it that you are being shown at this full moon within your emotional nature, especially? And I pulled a card that has to deal with our upset. So basically not like recognizing when we are upset. So this is sigil 77, and it talks about the fact that when we're upset, we can sometimes just react to the upset. So it's like almost coming from this instinctual kind of animalistic place of, this is stepping over a boundary, I'm just going to like lash out. When really the real purpose of an emotion like upset is to ultimately, as this deck says, is to awaken something within us. It specifically says it's a setup on behalf of the universe to call you to make a change to your thoughts, communication, actions, and situation. It's a call to awaken. So there's something around a situation in your life that you have maybe been kind of pushing down your dissatisfaction, you're upset around, or you've been reacting to it in unhealthy ways or coping in unhealthy ways, or whatever that is for you. And maybe some of you guys have been kind of in this state of like a little bit of chaos with this Two of Pentacles in reverse. Some of you guys maybe have felt like really unorganized or really overwhelmed, or you have so much on your plate that you're not managing well. You're kind of overextending yourself. And maybe part of that as a Capricorn, especially overworking, part of that is in a way to kind of not have to deal with some of the things that upset us, and ultimately be able to push it off to a later date, push it off. Just throw yourself into your work. But because you are upset, the work is kind of chaotic and not being done. Like, it's not, you don't feel maybe under control. You don't feel maybe as resourceful as you normally do. And so this full moon is really trying to help you, again, understand the core around why you are feeling the way you are feeling, and what you can do in order to create some kind of change in your life to be able to shift these feelings so that you don't just get stuck in a cycle with them. This deck says that there are 3 reasons why we get upset, and it kind of can be a recipe of all 3. The first is an intention or desire that is opposed or prevented. The second is an expectation that has been unfulfilled, or the third is an unsuccessful communication. So I encourage you guys to think about what is really upsetting you around this full moon and tie it to one of those 3 things and ask yourself what you can do in order to create the change, in order to resolve the core of one of those 3 things. So if you're having a difficult conversation with somebody and you're not seeing eye to eye with them, ask yourself what you need to say or what you need to do in order to create clear communication. Ask yourself maybe how you need to change expectations or make expectations clearer, or not become as emotionally attached to expectations in order for you to feel better. Or the third is having your intention or desire kind of opposed or prevented. This one, again, it's important to see how you can maybe get to the end goal, get to the desire, and not, overcome whatever is preventing you. And so I feel like part of this energy, how it's manifesting, is this kind of chaotic sort of energy with this 2 of Pentacles in reverse. The Devil card upright to me, the Death card upright is telling me that there's something that you are needing to transform your relationship with. So maybe it's your relationship with work, how you manage something in your life, how you prioritize something, how you organize something, how you think about something and execute it. And so there's a need to take the way that you're doing that and transform it, or your relationship with it, in order for that to come out much more empowered. I also pulled the Devil in reverse, which talks about somebody who is kind of coming out of a phase of limiting beliefs. They're reclaiming their power and their self-control. They're not being so stuck in like really bad habits that they're enacting unconsciously. They're somebody who is focused on being free, being independent, being in control of themselves. And a large part of this chaotic energy, I think, can come from this Devil upright, from these kind of bad habits that we sink into to lose ourselves, to ignore realities of certain situations. And so that's kind of the message for a lot of people, is like, let's see reality and do something about it, which is a super Capricorn thing to do. And so, yes, facing kind of some of those limiting beliefs is a really big part of this. Ultimately. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn. I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope it does resonate. If it does, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius rising and sun. For you guys, this Capricorn full moon is happening on July 21st in your 12th house at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And this moon is conjunct Pluto, stirring up quite a lot of feelings. And I feel like for you guys, probably some pretty big attachments to something. What I ultimately feel for this full moon is that there's some level of things that have been psychologically suppressed within ourselves that is being illuminated, because the moon and Pluto are both quite subconscious, but the sun is coming opposite it, shining light on these aspects of ourself and our life. I asked the cards, what is it that's being illuminated for you that's subconscious, especially this being the 12th house of the subconscious, super potent energy for you. And I got the card 71 with the sigil 71, which talks about depletion, not recognizing how depleted you actually are. It's funny because the 12th house is the house of rest. It's the house that kind of things die off basically before they're rebuilt into the first. And so they become a mush. They start to be able to decompose and become something different when they start to solidify in the first house. So there's something in your life that I feel like is trying to transition. It's trying to change, but I feel that you guys are maybe holding on too much to how things are, and you're needing to let go and release and have a little bit less control in the situation. And I think many of you guys might be not going through the proper process of this transition because of certain self-sabotage with this Devil card, certain unhealthy mechanisms of kind of dealing with things, where we're stuck in maybe a cycle of addiction or attachment to something, or we feel like overly limited by something. We sabotage ourselves and our success by feeling powerless, by feeling like we're stuck in some kind of cycle that we can't get out of it, that we're going to always turn to these behaviors, or that we're never going to believe in ourselves enough to get past this, or we're obsessed about something and we can't let it go. There's a sense of being like making yourself stuck by having a rigid like attachment and desire to control for things to be how they are. Like, I'm going to predict this and I'm going to make it this way. And ultimately, I feel like you guys are being very, very depleted by this, and likely other aspects of your life as well. And there's something about this situation that you are attached to that I feel like you are not allowing true love for you to be taken in, for you to receive love from other people. And so because you won't let go of this thing, and you keep investing time and energy into something in your life, or running yourself ragged in some way, you're not stopping and resting in the ways that you need. You're not receiving love from the people that you need to receive from. You aren't looking for like love in the right places, or you're trying to get fulfillment out of things that are not actually filling you up anymore. And so there's a sense of needing to turn to a different place, of kind of needing to get out of this energy of being overly attached to something that isn't actually filling up your cup. It's depleting you, and trying to look for the true source of like the well water in the desert, right? It's not getting attached to the mirage, but truly trying to see where there is that fulfillment emotionally. And this also like giving yourself more vital energy by resting, maybe getting a massage, taking a day off, doing something just for fun. So there's this energy of like, you need to fill your own cup. You need to give yourself love. You need to fulfill yourself in enriching ways, and not just the ways that feel most easy to come by. Like, oh, I'm going to rest by flipping through my social media. That's not resting at all. You might find that you're actually more drained after that. And so it's trying to find the things that are truly fulfilling and enriching, the relationships that truly are, the goals that truly are, instead of just pouring yourself into something that's taking your energy and not giving it back. I also pulled the Knight of Swords, which talks about somebody who's maybe very kind of ambitious, really perfectionist, somebody who's like they kind of take on too much maybe, or they are moving really fast. And so there's this nature here of you guys like not slowing down enough to recognize that you actually are very depleted, or maybe you kind of bulldoze yourself and be like, oh, I can't have a rest day because I have to get all this stuff done, and that's an absolute priority. But what if your health broke down as a result of that? Your health is your biggest priority. Your well-being is your biggest priority, and that has to come first, and not just when it reaches the absolute max capacity to the point where you get ill or become psychologically unwell. So it's recognizing when you need to slow the F down. And this is one of those times where you need to do that. The last card that I have is a Six of Swords, which talks about moving into peaceful water. So this is what you're transitioning into as you're becoming aware of these cycles of self-sabotage, as you're becoming aware of your inability to let go of something, your inability to release, to relax, to let love in, to find fulfillment through healthy ways. As you process some of these things and deal with them, with this moon in Capricorn conjunct Pluto in the 12th, you're going to start to transition into calmer waters, and to allow yourself to accept the reality of what's going on, to not resist it, to leave whatever it is that's unfulfilling behind, so that you can finally find what is satisfying to you, what is emotionally fulfilling to you on a deeper soul level. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius. If this resonates, I'd love to hear from you down below. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up, subscribe, share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, and last but not least, we have Pisces rising and sun. This Capricorn full moon happening on July 21st is taking place in your 11th house. This Capricorn full moon is at 29 degrees, which is a critical or anaretic degree, and is going to bring about some kind of crisis related to Capricorn energy. If you haven't watched the overview, definitely check that out to understand more of what that means. This moon is also conjunct Pluto So it can definitely stir up quite a lot of emotions, and it does tend to bring up things that have been ultimately suppressed. And the sun is illuminating these two kind of more subconscious aspects of the psyche that we don't always have awareness of. So I pulled cards on what that could be for you guys, and I got two. Interesting is that one of them, everyone else just got one. One of them also was the one that came out for Sagittarius, and Jupiter rules over, in traditional astrology, both Pisces and Sagittarius. So there's something here where there's a thread of commonality with this strong kind of faith and optimism that Jupiter has that can be a downside to both Pisces and Sagittarius. And that comes out in this card, Sigil 57, which talks about having blinding optimism or blind faith around something, and maybe not doing your full due justice or due diligence with something because you just assume that it will work. You really feel like everything is going to be just fine. And this full moon is in your 11th house. So this requires long-term planning. This is something that definitely requires you to understand how things are interconnected and how relationships maybe play a pivotal role, or how there are certain steps that you need to take to get to some kind of conclusion. And so it's important for you to recognize where you might have blind faith or optimism about people in your life, about the infallibility in others. For example, if somebody tells you like, this is the best way to go, and they're an advisor, they might not have all the answers. They might, if you're having an intuition about something, it might be more important to listen to that than other people. And the other reason I say that is because the next card that I got, which is Sigil 47, talks about going to the outside, basically, turning to others for the kind of answers that you're looking for. Instead of trusting your own instinct, instead of trusting yourself. And it doesn't mean that you can't seek, mentorship or advice from others, but it's important not to let that advice alter your own perspective, or go against what you really feel in terms of your intuition. If it alters your perspective in a way that feels in alignment, that's good. But if it alters your perspective in a way that feels like you're giving your power to someone, or you're uncertain of yourself, or you're not trusting yourself, that is where there's a problem. And that tends to not be an issue with Pisces. You guys are often very intuitive, but with these two cards next to each other, the blind faith and the turning to people outside of you, I feel like there's maybe a blind faith in others where you feel like, oh, this person, like they know everything. My friend, like she does the things the right way, or she's like the best at this, or, this person, like they have it all together. I'm just going to listen to what they say because they seem to know what they're talking about. So there's this blind, trust in other people that I feel like you need to be getting that resourcefulness from within rather than from those people. And it's like needing to maybe question your reliance on seeking some kind of validation from others, recognizing that you can validate yourself. And if you truly don't know something, or you truly feel that some piece is missing, seeking help, seeking advice is recommended. But also, if you feel that you know something and someone is saying something against what you know, there's clearly a problem here. And I think that that's a really big part of this message, is learning to trust yourself amidst many, many voices, which the 11th house consists of. Saturn is currently retrograding in your first house. So this full moon has a lot to deal with reconfiguring your self-concept. And in many ways, there could be this kind of lack of boundaries and whatnot within relationship with others, where Pisces tends to be quite porous and take on a lot of things energetically, emotionally. And so sometimes Pisces can even believe what the other person is saying because the other person believes it so much, and the emotions just carries forward and there's no boundary to stop it. And so they fully adopt it. They fully buy into it because of the conviction the other person has. And it's important not to let that overwrite the inner instinct and knowledge that you have as individuals. So yeah, something rewriting here in terms of understanding like what the proper boundaries are within your relationships and connections, so that you know when to go to somebody, when to lean on them and trust them, and when it's best to maybe be a little bit more independent and have maybe some doubt around that other person's perspective, you know, kind of where their influence might be coming from, or if you can fully trust that. I think it's important to have some healthy dose of skepticism when it comes to asking people for advice or mentorship. It's helpful to take it into consideration, but also understand that everyone is a human being coming from their own point of view. And so there may be something that they're missing that you can really recognize within a situation. Okay, so I pulled the Sun card and the Temperance and the Two of Cups. So really, it's funny because I feel like for most of the people, like the first two cards have been what they're doing wrong, and then the next card is like what they're gonna get when they do it right. So if I were following that pattern for you guys, the Sun and the Temperance, it's almost like the Sun is so super like, yes, it's super positive, right? It's somebody who's just shining bright, who is cheerful and this great disposition. And yes, I have so much faith in this and I'm super excited about this. It's like this kind of light energy, right? And sometimes you could go into excess of that, feeling like, again, too optimistic about something, too hopeful about something, too like cheery, and not having enough like skepticism. The Temperance card is also to me about somebody who's really patient, who my cat's like looking at me right outside the window. Hi, Merlin. Somebody who's really patient, who's practicing moderation and balance. And I get this kind of like softness, like, and almost like this amicability of like, sure, yes, like I agree with you, or I'm meeting you halfway, or yeah, I don't know, like this very kind of balanced, even temper. And I feel like these are really beautiful qualities most of the time. The Sun and Temperance are really beautiful cards. But there's something about this where I feel like it's almost like too sweet, you know? And this moon it's a moon in Capricorn conjunct Pluto. It's acidic. It's cold. It's bitter. It's like the darker side of the self needs to come up a little bit. The shadows need to come up and sting. They need to set boundaries. They need to be, again, suspicious or skeptical. They need to be kind of ruthless in their pursuit of like reality, right? Instead of just being like, oh, of course, this is going to work out and whatever you say. And yeah, I'm just going to be super amicable. I'm not going to push for what I want. I'm just going to listen to you. And if that sounds right, then yeah, let's go with that. It's like, no, let's be more sure-footed and dominant. Yeah, dominant, I think is the word that I'm looking for. Having some of kind of this sharpness and like, yeah, this ruthless is a little bit too intense, but this piercing quality of I'm going to get down to the truth and the reality of the matter. And I'm going to use my spidey senses and my sense of skepticism in order to make sure that I'm seeing through any kind of BS, that I'm not kind of buying into any illusions myself, and that I'm being very, very clear on what something is and what something presents itself as. Hope that's making sense for you. And it ends in the Two of Cups. So it's almost like instead of somebody else telling you this is right for you, you are able to feel for yourself in your heart, this is 100% right for me. Whatever this thing is, this person, this conversation, this honesty, this decision, this goal, this investment, whatever this is, it's like, this is right for me because I feel it in my bones. I'm not being gaslit. I'm not being convinced otherwise. I'm not seeking outside counsel. I can feel it so strongly within myself. And I'm piercing through to that honest, authentic truth. And because of that, I'm attracting and I'm magnetizing the thing that is 100% match to that authentic truth instead of someone else dressing something up or telling me that something looks like this or is this, and then me buying into that and then realizing like 10 months into it that it wasn't what I thought it was, and that I'm not satisfied because somebody else told me that it was right for me. So I hope that makes sense. That's really what I'm seeing for you, Pisces. If this resonates, I'd love to hear from you down below. Please don't forget to also give me a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, and share with your friends, and have a beautiful day. Bye.